Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Friday. Hi, Fran.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
everybody?
We have a lot of early risers here.
Yeah, we have a lot of snow starting here.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
70 degrees down here. Haha.
Another
Roberto, Ron.
Good morning. Another advertisement for Florida, huh?
Yes, we're not
Brought to you-
talking about tomorrow, though.
Brought to you by the Sunshine State.
Tomorrow going to be 62.
Yeah, it's nice. We like that weather.
So does anybody know what an EOS is, or has anybody read Traction? Okay, so
Come
EOS,
on, guys, you know.
we have a shy bunch today. It's okay. So the book Traction talks about an entrepreneurial operating system, and sometimes when you hear things, you say, yeah, that sounds great, but I think if you really take it to heart and then you digest the material that the author talks about, it does make a lot of sense. And he says to become a great entrepreneur, and everybody on this call is an entrepreneur. We're basically generating our own business. You need to really do what you love to do, and then do it with people that you love. Have a strategy to have a high impact, get paid well, and have time for other passions. So that's the core of the book Traction and the EOS system. And today's session is now over. No, just kidding. But he breaks down a lot of how these entrepreneurial systems work. And I'm gonna share my screen for just a moment.
Anybody who remembers Floyd Wickman, this system came about with through his son Gino, and he's the author or co-author of this program and the book, which I've read, and I recommend for all of you to read.
I'm a sweat hog.
I'm a sweat hog.
I'm a sweat hog.
All right, now for you younger folks, you have no idea what that means, but that's another day.
Yeah, really.
So the entrepreneurial operating system, and Rob, I didn't know that, but that really is interesting, that where he got probably his fundamentals from, because
Absolutely.
these are not pitched as a real estate industry specific. This is a complete entrepreneurial system. It happens to fit well into real estate, but I imagine if I was in other businesses, I would say, oh wow, that really relates to me here. So the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS, is a simple framework for defining what's important, who owns it, and exactly what success looks like. I don't think that we can understate that. It's a framework for defining what's important. Sometimes we're too busy being busy. We don't know what's important. And then as we grow, who owns it? I'd say one of the most frustrating things is if you're not a great leader, maybe you give tasks to two people and hope that one of them does it, or maybe you forget to give it to somebody. That could be frustrating. And then if you refine your skills and you give tasks out, you don't want to have to go back and make sure that they were done, because that's unmanageable, right? That's the opposite of what we're looking to do. And then I think we also need to define, what does success look like, right? Not only financially, but what does success look like? For example, the life of a buyer's agent and the life of a listing agent are almost like different careers. They're almost like different careers. I mean, the buyer's agent tends to be a lot more reactionary, has to be, Janie or Johnny on the spot, accommodating the clients. And what do you think the life of a listing agent looks like? Anybody want to chime in?
He's an employer.
Huh?
Listing agent is an employer. Buyer's agent is an employee.
Yep, because they're getting paid. But how about in terms of like what does the day look like, Ron?
For a listing agent or a buyer's agent?
Well, a listing agent. What does a day look like for a strong listing agent?
Scheduling, time management.
Looks like Bob Durso.
Looks like Bobby.
Looks like Bob Durso.
Okay. Well, Bob, you have that picture of you, and I'm not sure who that is on here all the time, so I don't know what. Oh, I'm sorry, that's
Bobby,
Wilson.
educate
Bobby
the man.
Durson.
That's Mariano Rivera.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good picture.
Yeah, time
So-
management. Yeah, time management, scheduling, prospecting, that type of thing.
Who gets to the office earlier?
Listing agent.
Listing agent.
Right. And who has a more predictable schedule?
Listing agent.
Listing agent.
First,
If you're good at both, do the best listing agents or the best buyer's agents make more money?
Listing agents.
Listing agent.
Because the buyer's agents tend to be more limited by time, right? So that's what I'm talking about. What does success look like? Okay. With every member of your team accountable for a handful of goals and numbers, you'll get consistent, better results. To become a better entrepreneur, you have to have a vision, you have to have the right people, you have to have systems. The issues, I'm going to talk about that in terms of how do you manage issues, right? There are platforms like Monday and what's the other platform like Monday.com? There's Trello, there's a bunch of them, Slack. And those are programs so you don't have to keep going back and forth to your email. Hey, I email Bob Durso about doing this. He emails me an update back, then I email him back. Incredibly inefficient. So there's better systems to handle that. Define processes and rocks. I'm going to talk about rocks in a little bit. A rock is a 30-day goal. Okay. And in the EOS system, Mr. Wickman talks about, having, 3 to 7 rocks as the leader and 1 to 3 rocks as a team member. And, to be effective, you have to have, a future date. You have to know what the revenue is, what's the profits, how do you measure it, and what's the goal for the year? When do you want to have it done? How much revenue does it bring in? What's the profit after paying all expenses? What's the measurables? And what's the goal for the year? So does anybody want to role play with me here from the lens of a listing agent? How this might look?
I will.
Okay, who's that? Bobby?
Bobby G.
Okay, so let's just take a look at listing business. Like what's your goal for the next 90 days?
90 days would be 6 listings.
6 listings. And how much revenue does that bring you?
Between $50,000 and $60,000.
And then what's your cost to produce that revenue?
All right. Honestly speaking, that's where I fail. I don't have the answer for that.
Okay. And that's why I appreciate you volunteering, because this will provide a consciousness of, the ingredients that go into the formula. How will you know if you're on track? What are the measurables?
At the end of the week, I look to see how much canvassing I did and is the phone ringing or not.
Okay. So last week we talked about leading and lagging indicators, and I know you probably, with that Mariano Rivera closing pitch there, you probably get every listing you go on. But appointments would be, scheduling appointments would probably be a good indicator of how you're going to be doing in the future. How far in advance are most listing opportunities scheduled out, Bobby?
For me personally, within 48 hours.
And do you know where most of them come from? Like what prospecting source?
Yes.
Do you mind sharing that with us?
Well, it could be just my own personal experience. It's usually sphere of influence, meaning I'm hitting my database and people are responding from there. The other source is door knocking.
And do you have a certain amount of hours that you do certain activities every week, or is that random?
It's not consistent, but I am trying my best to improve on it.
Okay. And do you measure, for example, door knocking? How often do you door knock, or how often do you call your list, your sphere?
My sphere of influence right now, I'm calling, I would say with better consistency, because I just put out my holiday calendars, the end of December. And so now I'm trying to reach out to people to say, hey, did you get your calendar? You want to stay on the list? So I'm doing that there. As far as door knocking, just because of the weather, I haven't done it, in about 2 weeks.
Okay. And I would just I would encourage you to track, and it's not to say, hey, the weather's bad, go door knock and fall on the ice, but to measure, what type of a return do you get, when you do 4 hours of door knocking versus 8 hours of calling your prospects. And then that might give you, I don't know if Eric Pruitt's on the call or not, but I did that exercise with him, and I think sometimes what you think is yielding something is not actually what it does yield. And then when you're limited by time, Bobby, what do you do with your leads, or what do you do with your opportunities?
Well, the listing leads, I pretty much hold on to those for myself, but like perfect example today is I had somebody that wanted to see a house first thing this morning. I gave it to Mark. So if I can't handle the showings, I either give it to Judy or Mark.
So, and early on in your career, you didn't give out buyers, you took them all. So as you grow, what you need to do is make decisions on how you're going to leverage your business, because let's face it, we all have a business. And I'm going to go back up to here. Define what's important, who owns it, and what success looks like. I'm going to guess that you have a high level of confidence that Mark knows what he's doing. He's going to show up for the showing, and he's going to be professional the whole way, correct?
100%.
Check that box. Have a scorecard. This is a scorecard that I just cut and pasted off of the web. But I would think that for us in our business, we need to have a awareness that what gets measured improves. Some of the things that we might want to monitor, and this is a little grainy here, but in this business, they were looking at weekly revenue. They were looking at the cash balance change, the cash go up or down. They had it as sales calls, which would pretty much be calls, sales meetings, which are appointments, proposals, closed business. I adapted this to probably a good starting point, but maybe it needs a little bit of adjustment. What's your weekly commission that you earn today? How many transactions went under contract, whether it's a buyer or a sale? How many calls did you make? How many appointments did you go on? How many offers did you submit? How many listings were taken? How many closed transactions? So those would be a lot of things that I think would be healthy for us to measure at a periodic basis, and especially if you're a team. Right? Are there any other things that you'd like to see on there from the real estate professional entrepreneur?
So this is basically a take on the activity tracker from Floyd Wickman, and what you're trying to accomplish here is to get your numbers in line. So you know how many appointments you need to go on to get a listing, how many showings do you need to make to get to make a sale, and how many appointments do you need to, how many calls do you need to make to get an appointment. So the more you can track in this matrix, the better your numbers will become, because you know what you got to do.
So an interesting fact, Rob, is I think all the successful coaching systems basically have components or almost copy and paste these foundations that are here, right? I mean, the techniques might be a little bit different, but the
Right.
measurables are the same, right? You know, I don't care if you get your appointments from video, you door knock, you know, you're the best networker at the PTA, whatever your skill set is, you know, that's just the method to getting the appointments, and then you fill in the blanks, right?
Which is part of the, which is part of the EOS system. They're talking about do what you do best, instead of trying to be everything to everybody and doing, every different thing to get there. Do what you do best. If you're a phenomenal door knocker, knock those doors because you get response. Sphere of influence, whatever it is.
Now, in the industry, the boat is big enough for all kinds, right? Because if you've ever watched Tom Ferry and his much older father, Mike Ferry, you would want to take a blood test to make sure they're related because of the way they think. I mean, I think if you had Mike Ferry, talk to you and say, get the hell off social media and just make calls and talk to people, and Tom Ferry has a much more strategic approach. And the beautiful thing about it is neither one of them is wrong, right? You need to embrace what you're passionate about and love what you do, and then you're going to wind up being more successful. The EOS system, in my opinion, keeps you more grounded and measured so that, I'll bet you, and I'm going to put myself in the same box. I cannot tell you if this week, at the end of today was better than 4 weeks ago in terms of productivity, revenue. I should be doing a better job at measuring that. And I would think that, if you're a team of 9 people, if you're a team of 1, this is the foundation to being able to grow and identify what you can farm out to others. Okay. So anyway, then the last part is something that I think I'm personally very weak at, and it's how to hold an effective meeting where it doesn't go down rabbit holes, it doesn't go down tangents. And this is a framework. I don't think it's something that every meeting has to be, but I think it's a good start. And if you were in a meeting with your team leader, with your office, it would be nice to know that there was structure. It would be nice to know that the meeting starts on time, even if, some people are late, because the people who are late eventually will be on time when they know they missed the first 10 minutes of the meeting. Good news, celebrate your wins. Review the scorecard, right? And it can't always go up. It has to be practical. It has to be realistic. And, it's designed to bring you back to the mean, the standard that will get you where you need to be. Rock review. Okay, those big rocks that you're trying to change in the 90-day period. I think those are the most important things for us. And then the issues and the IDSs, those are kind of deferred to the end, because you don't want to defer the cadence of the meeting by trying to go down rabbit holes during the process. Personally, I hope there's not 60 minutes of issues, but depending on how big your team is, I'm sure that could vary. For rocks, anybody want to, what in the next 90 days would be a rock that you could focus on changing, that you might want to share?
Be more consistent.
Okay, but like, what's the outcome of that being more consistent going to mean to you, Bobby?
Truthfully, it'll give me a little peace of mind.
So you said do 6 listings in the next 90 days, is that correct?
Yes,
And do you know what you did last year?
as far as listings were concerned,
Yeah.
I believe I was somewhere around 24, 25.
Was that better than the year before?
No, the year before was, I did over 40, I believe.
So I think some of those rocks, Bobby, would be things that you're going to implement, that are going to get you more conversations, more appointments. Do you do any client appreciation events?
No,
What are your thoughts on those?
I think it's a great idea. I just don't know where to draw the line. Is it client for the past year, for the past 6 months, for the past 3 years? Sooner or later you got to cut it off.
So I'm going to put it out to the group. What would you, my opinion, I'll share my opinion at the end, but somebody want to chime in on that? What would a client appreciation party consist of?
I think it's probably different for everybody. I've heard of people that do, they sponsor their clients' open house where they, after they close, they have an open house party. And the realtors maybe sponsor the food or something. And then you go to the other extreme where you got a guy like Chopper that runs a community event with probably a couple hundred people that show up or more.
I mean, I don't know if Chopper's on. Chopper, are you on? Or anybody from Chopper's team? So I'm gonna share what Chopper actually rents out an entire ski resort for the day for his clients. I have no idea what that costs, but I'm sure it's not cheap. And I'm imagining it would probably be pretty memorable. The Chopper Russo Day at this ski resort, pretty unique. Bobby, part of it would be is the EOS system will force you to think about what that looks like and give you a deadline.
Rob,
Go ahead, Robert, I'm sorry.
that's okay. I was just going to say that, what I used to do was twice a year, I would have the clients that I had done business with that first 6 months of the year and then the second 6 months of the year, and I would invite them to a cocktail party at my home. And we would, just hang out for a couple of hours, have a nice time, have some nice drinks, and it was very personal. And it was great for them to talk to the other clients of mine who had, similar successes to theirs. And it just helped reinforce the fact that, yeah, the next time that somebody asks me about a realtor, Robert's obviously the guy. And that worked very nicely for me. So I'm just putting that out there.
Rob,
Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
We're having a client appreciation night tonight, in fact, at Lynn Schmitz's house for past, present customers and also people who have referred us business. It'll be an Asian theme with open bar, entertainment, food, complimentary valet parking, the works. So
Very, 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 very nice. And
Yeah.
just for the record, this is not a setup, right?
no,
Okay.
What does it run you, Dan? You'll have to ask Lynn.
Has anybody else done consistent client appreciation events?
I used to do it years ago. I used to rent space in a hotel in Sunrise at the Ramada Inn, and held we didn't have an open bar, but we had a lot of hors d'oeuvres, and then we had speakers and question and answering time. It does definitely pay off.
So,
Hey, Rob.
yes.
Good morning. There's also an event that we just saw over at Orange Theory. Seems to be like post-COVID, people got into doing their exercise at home. Now they're going out again and hosting a brunch after all these people come in and exercise, hosted by Remax. Seems to be pretty interesting because you're getting to meet a lot of new people and you're all working out, and it seems to work very well. It's just something new. Looking for other ideas as well.
Very good. So,
Hey, Rob, I've got a good one.
go ahead.
The activity centers, because this way, if it's young families or if it's older people, but there's a whole variety of events that attract a wide range of individuals, and that's always been super successful. And then the smaller side, some of the, you can sponsor like where you can just go and do one activity like axe throwing, or another thing back in the day was that worked really well was think about people's commutes on the way home and just do a really quick after hours get together for a quick drink and appetizers. So this way it's not inconvenient for people to get there. And that was, all those have been big successes. Might be helpful.
Fantastic. Now that
I'm trying to, Rob, I'm trying to think of, like, after you close and you're having this client appreciation event, what of value after they've been, let's say you're having the people you close that year, what of value could you give them regarding their home at the event or do at the event that's going to have a different kind of a value to them besides just having a cocktail party or something? I don't know.
May I make a suggestion? This is Jackie with Motto Mortgage.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this past year, a lot of people paid cash. Past 2 years have paid cash. You can coordinate with your lender. They have programs where people now can do cash out refinances to get some of that cash back. And the rates are looking pretty good right now. So they are looking better. And you can reach out to those people in your book that have purchased with cash. And that would be something that would, number one, they would love the fact to hear from you. Number two, even if they don't take you up on the offer, you're in your thought process. And now that day they're going to go and say, hey, my realtor just called and gave me a really great idea, and talk to other people. And most lenders, and again, I'm so anxious to earn your business, but any lender that you deal with can talk to you about this process. And this wasn't a trying to get business from you guys. It was a real genuine idea. Talk to your lenders that you work with, because that would be a personal touch to those people. And I guarantee you most of your people last year were probably cash transactions. Thank you for letting me talk.
Yeah, Jackie, thanks for sharing. And I think the value comes from the intent. You know, if you're a lender and all you're calling people do is, hey, refinance, 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 as opposed to, trying to identify people that you could help. It does have it's a difference, and it's not an insignificant difference. Does anybody know what they're, go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just going to say, one of the things that you could do if you're going to have an event and you want to add some additional value to the process is to bring somebody in to set up a table at your event, maybe a financial planner or a tax specialist, or if you're targeting your first time buyers that have bought, maybe you want to bring someone in to help them organize their house because they're new to home ownership. Something that I went to yesterday, one of the local hospitals, Hackensack Meridian, which is across the whole state, they just opened a new facility in Clark, and they had a business breakfast where they invited all local business people to come through and see the facility and be able to share that information. So if you're wanting to, they would, for us New Jersey folks, bring in a physician to talk about some kind of health issue or healthy living or anything like that, and they'll go anywhere and have those conversations. So you could do just about anything to add value, especially to people that are moving into the area, that are new to the area, by connecting them, because that's what we are. We're connectors. So services and things like that.
Yeah,
That's value.
down here in Florida, the weather's pretty good all year round, but there's a lot of events during the weekends, especially like farmers markets, parks, art fairs. What I was telling the agents to do is to get a few agents together, chip in and get a kiosk, use the Remax balloon, and have, your listings or whatever you want to do, their cookies for the kids, waters, whatever, and be in the group of all the vendors there. We used to do it years ago and it worked great for us, but I tell the realtors to do it. I think it's a really good way to attract business.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to mention, for those of you that are close to or in travel distance to Monmouth County, I would be willing to host at no cost to you a day for your clients down on the farm. I have a horse farm with 6 horses. It's a charity for disabled veterans. So it's a great way to showcase the veteran cause. And you could do a family day and bring your clients there with their kids, and we could give them pony rides. And I mean, I've done plenty of events there. I do lots of team building for real estate agents and teams there as well, which I'm excited to talk to those of you that are in New Jersey about that this coming spring on equine growth and learning. So I would certainly be willing to do that. And that would be a nice cost-effective way and something unique to offer to your clients. And then obviously we could showcase the cash out refi, great idea, on that as well, or home equity lines of credit. We could do a table, set it up there, give them something of value to walk away with.
Renee, where are you located?
We're located in Monmouth County, New Jersey, right off of exit 114. We're about 10 minutes off the exit.
You're a little far for us.
A little far from Vero Beach.
Yes, we're a little far from Vero Beach, but I do have a lot of contacts with EGALA, which is the organization, the international organization I'm involved with on equine therapy. And they're located all over the world. And I have lots of contacts in Florida. So if that's something you're interested in, we could look in near Vero Beach and see if there are any EGALA facilities there. And I could make some calls and try to help you.
Thank you. We, for several years, we hosted a holiday hoedown.
Oh,
live on-
nice.
I live on acreage also, and I know not everybody has that opportunity, but we invited past clients, vendors, referral partners, and had it at our house. And we did that for about 10 years. We did a hayride for the kids. We made it just a very family friendly event to where no one had to get a babysitter. The kids loved it.
Right.
They left dirty. We had it in the evening and it was a lot of fun. And we put up a couple big tents, and then I'd have my husband the first couple of years did like pulled pork, and then we had it catered. And I did that probably for about $3,500 if you had to rent a facility, but we found a lot of value in making it something that the whole family could come and enjoy. And if the kids were there and enjoyed it, it seems like the parents really enjoyed it. They stayed longer, they socialized and looked forward. We had a big cotton candy machine. My husband would make cotton candy, and we just turned it into a big event that we did for about 10 years.
That's great. That's great.
And Wendy, I'm going to guess that there's no clients that you have that you don't appreciate and enjoy working with, because you probably wouldn't have closed a transaction with them unless I'm wrong.
There's some, not
There's
many,
some? Okay.
not many. I'm not that nice all the time.
But I mean, like, we attract what we put out. And I think I want to just make that clear. So, sometimes, I was having a conversation with somebody about a potential transaction where the seller was not being forthright, being very difficult before the transaction came together. And, man, do we need listings? But you're better off walking away from a bad listing than taking something that you're going to regret. Okay. And that takes me to my next thing here. And this is something that I remember from a little Mike Ferry speech. He said, when you make a decision, you need to have data and then blind faith. And what he meant by blind faith is you need to know that if you're doing the right things, the results will come. And he gave a couple of examples. Monday morning, I'm flying down to Palm Beach. I'm not worried about the pilot. Maybe I should be, but I have blind faith that they've done it enough times that they're going to take off and they're going to land at the right airport, and I'll be able to walk out into the airport and go to the office. A surgeon, you get knocked out, you go into surgery. That's probably ultimate blind faith, right? But there are different degrees of blind faith. And if you know you're doing the right things, or if you're newer in the industry and you have mentors that you trust, you need to have blind faith. You need to, there used to be, I'm not even sure what the context was, but when somebody would like fall back and trust that you would catch them, it's kind of another example of blind faith for your team. But if we, level up our game, we pay more attention, I'm going to go back to like Bobby, were you #1 in Woodbridge last year, or was that the year before, or both?
Maybe 2022.
Okay. I guess I didn't run the numbers yet for 2023, but
Well, he said that he had 40 some listings.
so one of the things that I find really interesting as a huge opportunity is, as an industry, because we're so fragmented, everybody is an individual, we wear many, many different hats. Most of us don't know what our CAC is, or our customer acquisition cost. We don't know what our TAM is, our total addressable market. And without doing that, it's just, bad science to try to come up with goals. So maybe the conversation might look like, the total address. Bobby, how many sales are there in Woodbridge in a year? Do you know that number?
I have to look it up. I really don't know it off the top of my head.
So my goal is I want you to know that number stone cold. And I want to focus on what percentage we want to be of that total number, right? So let's know what the total addressable market is. You know, let's determine what our market share goal is. Figure out what our customer acquisition cost is so that we run it more like a business. Is that a fair commentary?
You're okay here.
And
These mirrors are lousy. These mirrors are lousy.
Tony, all right, I'm gonna mute everybody.
What? Uh-oh.
The background noise going here. But you know, I think when you're in a hyper local market, it would be good to know what the total addressable market is. We have one agent that has 2 farms of about 680 homes. You know, and she knows exactly what her market share is. She knows what it costs to be relevant there. She knows what the customer acquisition cost is. She knows what her market share range is going to be. And then she knows what her return is. You know, so typically a $60,000 investment is getting $250,000 to $350,000 return. You know, I would encourage us all to maybe dig a little bit deeper, you know, better define what we consider our market to be. And for most of us, it can't be an entire town. Maybe it's, you know, 2 or 3 sections of a town. Maybe it's, you know, 2 or 3 postal routes, or some way that we can define that, study those numbers, know what it will cost for us to be relevant there, and then execute. That may be a rock, right? Yesterday, I was just looking on the call. Don, are you on? Don is not on. So, you know, Don, one of our agents, Don, was in here, and
Yes, I'm here, Rob.
so Don, share what happened yesterday.
As far as
At the end of the day with the call, what do we make? How many calls?
we made about 3 or 4.
And how many people are getting pre-qualified now?
We got 2 of them right now.
2 of them. So Don was like saying, I'm struggling here with the business, and you know, we just made the calls, and we spoke to, I think, 3 people. 1 didn't answer. 2 to 3 people were motivated. We were able to engage them, and you know, I'm pretty sure, Don, that you could get 1 of them closed in the next 60 days, or at least under contract. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I do.
So that's what's measuring and knowing what it's giving you consistency to the business. Because one of the biggest challenges is we feel stressed out because we don't know, you know, when the next check is coming. But if we do the right things, it's like going at the right gate on the airport. You know that that plane is going to land where it says, you know, barring like a weather event or something like that, but you have a high level of certainty. And I think we need to have that high level of certainty. You know, we need to have a map. We need to take the time. We're all proficient at the MLS. We can go look and figure out how many houses sell in the area that we consider to be our farm. We can pick a rate that we believe we can get to capture with a certain investment in both time and money. And then we can look back and say, does that work for me? Right? I mean, is the area too big? Is the area too small? Am I not comfortable with that size of an investment? I would bet you that there's a handful of people on this call here that if I told you if you invested 60,000, you can make 250, you might say it would stress me out for the first 3 months making the investment. Right? So you have to start at a different level. And the great news about this is I would rather have your time than your money to generate business. I would rather have time and commitment than a pocketbook, because a pocketbook can be copied. You cannot be copied. You're unique. You invest in yourself. You know, we talked about the only sustainable advantage that any business or person can have is their ability and willingness to learn and change, right?
Rob,
Yes.
Don't mean to interrupt, but I think one thing that the majority of agents overlook is their sphere of influence. I consider their sphere of influence their number one farm. Those people know them, like them, have done business with them. It's so much easier. It's an absolute fact that when people are not consistent and contacting their sphere of influence, they lose 39% of the business they could have had.
Colleen, I think a lot of times it's they feel awkward, staying in touch with them. And that's something that we need to get over. We need to be more about value instead of just saying, hey, give me a sale, right? I mean, there has to be a process.
Absolutely. I've told the story before. Lisa Flickstein is an agent that I had, and she sent out these cute little note cards, not on regular holidays, on off holidays, to her sphere of influence, and people kept them because she hand did them, she designed them herself. It was like personal. And she was always in their forefront of their minds because she did that. It didn't cost her a whole lot of money, but I had another agent who played tennis with this gentleman every Sunday. And we were having a meeting and talking about, new business.